Hello everyone. It's James again. And we have another one today. And when I say another so-called high-value scam artist. Allegedly. If you remember, a few days back I did a video on a guy in Las Vegas that had a protein cookie Ponzi scheme, where he was taking people's life savings, saying he was going to make them a fortune by investing it into his business. And really what it appeared he was doing was just blowing their money on having fun, buying cars, living in big houses, and traveling the world, and likely dating beautiful women. And this is a key point I'm going to come back to. The dating beautiful women part. Because it's an extremely big component of these stories. And please don't get it twisted. There are more of these men popping up just so they can even date average women in looks and social standing. And again, we are going to circle back to this point as it's very important. But this guy that I did the video a few days ago, he met his match, and unfortunately scammed someone higher up on the cluster B food chain. And I will put a link for the video in the description box below and you can watch it if you haven't viewed it yet. But let's just say this guy didn't have a good ending to his situation when he scammed what appears to be a real deal full-blown psychopath. But in that video I talked about, this is the new trend. High value meaning you have to be driving a $500,000 sports car, living in the biggest houses, taking the best trips, and eating $1,000 a plate dinners, and giving lavish gifts to their girlfriends, such as diamond rings, super expensive watches, and anything else they want. And this has become the new standard. And if you ever watch these dating podcasts, there are a bunch of OF models on these panels that say they need a high-value man, which for them means a man with a ton of money that will pay all of their bills, so they can quit doing OF, when no one that makes that kind of money wants to pay all of their bills. They just want to have the chance to date them, have fun, and take off in the wind. But to add on top of that, the hosts of these shows, though they make some good points about dating and how society is falling apart, they pile on, and they basically use themselves as the financial benchmark. And they basically say, if a man isn't where they are at, they are a bum. Forget he's hard working. Forget he's a good man. And he believes in God if you believe in God too as a woman. Nope. None of that is important. But what is important to these people? Can he fly around the world and get things done? And if he can't do that, he's not to be considered. Well, this wouldn't be a problem if it was just this circle of people thinking and behaving this way. The problem is that's not the case. This thinking and way of being has bled all the way into what most would call normal society. Here in the US there are more women on OF than there are female school teachers. And they aren't there because they are just trying to make ends meet. Most of them are there with the dreams of living the so-called high-value lifestyle, where they too can have a $5,000 handbag. They too can have a shoe collection that most women would want to have. Most not all. So they get sucked into this way of life. Most don't make what they thought they would make. And those that do, they can't stop because they are addicted to the money. And I don't like to talk about beauty standards, but this has bled over to the most normalist of women out there. The plain Janes. You could pass by an average woman here at the grocery store, and there is a possibility she has an OF account, or she's on a sugar site. This is now commonplace. And while doing all of this, they hope to meet a guy like this. Who is this guy, you might ask? He's an Australian online influencer that has been in the fitness space and a few other areas selling courses and being a life coach. All well and dandy. But in between then he's started up several businesses that have all gone bust. Again. All fine and dandy as long as everything was on the up and up. Not everyone gets it right on their first try at business. But then it appears just like the guy in Las Vegas. He started a business where he was seeking investors. I believe it was for an app creation business. And again, people were giving up their life savings to him with the hopes to invest and become a high-value man like this guy. Or to even possibly set up a nice nest egg for their children. But the truth is, or what it appears to be, he was taking the money and using it for his own personal fun and lifestyle. Maybe like the other guy, they were using some of the money they got from others to give to a big investor or to make it look like there was some sort of return to keep them off of their back. But quite simply, people were just giving him money just so he could go out and party and meet beautiful women. Now this is where we are going to circle back around to this part. Looks. I've been saying this over and over and over again. If you have a society that pushes this type of success as high value, meaning, you have to be able to jet set around the world, and you have to be wearing a $5,000 suit, and you have to drive a super sports car or a luxury sedan. And that according to most of the dating podcast. Unless you are at this level, you are a bum. You will have more and more of these narcissist cluster B types that will rise up in society. Because there are the most normal women by society's standards that have bought into this brainwashing hook, line and sinker. So you will have some men that want to have a girlfriend so bad. They will start to develop these narcissistic ways and become what I call a late stage or later in life narcissist. And this can happen to both men and women. For women it oftentimes involves buying into this junk with a so-called best girlfriend in their ear. Convincing them to go to this party or that party to meet this rich guy and that rich guy when they have a boyfriend at home. Or to go on a sugar site. And once they go through with something like that, and they can get over the hurt of losing the love of their life, they become numb. And oftentimes unfeeling and uncaring. And now can do the worst of the worst to you. Without thinking twice about it. Well, some men can do the same thing. They might think, if you can't beat them, join them. So the more they get away with scamming people. And they see the attention they get when they have a pocket full of cash. And they pull up in a $500,000 sports car. They become uncaring and unfeeling to anything else. And for the men and women that are already narcissists and already evil to the core, this type of new societal norm gives an open lane for these narcissists to blaze right past others in society and up to the top of what some people call success. Now, in the video I made about the guy in Las Vegas, I mentioned a man that started the high value craze. That since passed away. But this man had a very different message than the dating podcasts that still operate today. That there is nothing wrong with being average. When a woman would snicker and laugh at the thought of dating and marrying a man that made an average income, he would sometimes stand up and walk off his own show. Because first off, he would say, "Ma'am, you are average too. How can you act that way to someone that is on your level?" Then he would say, "When you are laughing like that, you are laughing at my mother and father and my grandparents. They were hard-working average people. You see, one of the goals of the narcissist is to divide and conquer. And they do so by turning the very people that can help each other out of a mess on each other. For us that grew up in a home with a narcissist mother or father, and for some both, they made sure the brothers and sisters were always against the scapegoat of the house. Because they didn't want you all to team up and escape the hell of a house you lived in and never come back. Well, those that run society don't want you to escape either and have a healthy life and produce common sense, decent, hard-working, God-fearing children. I mentioned there was one of the main writer-creators for Cosmo magazine. When the movement that ends with ist was really kicking off, well, they not only wanted to split up happy households so they could program their BS into them, but they wanted to make that money from the big advertisers out there that were placing ads in their magazines. And they knew the only way to be able to sell certain products to the women reading this magazine was to sell a lifestyle. So they wrote a bunch of fake stories, showing to the women reading these stories that divorcing a good man was liberating and wonderful. And they did all of this simply so they could sell these women products. I say that to say, brainwashing is real. And they have now brainwashed a ridiculous amount of people into this high-value garbage. So much so scamming is now the new norm. And the new so-called high value. This is how come guys that look like bodybuilding doctors are able to contact again what society would say is a normal to average woman. And he can say how much he loves her, but he has an emergency and he needs money. And she's willing to sell her house to give it to him. And yes, there are men that fall for this scam too. There are. But the truth is, and this is one thing these dating podcasts touch on that is accurate. Even if you are a good-looking guy in society, if you don't have the money to go along with it, you might have a hard time still getting noticed by a woman. But an average woman, if she really thinks about it and pays attention to her surroundings, there are likely tons of guys that would love to have a chance to date her. But when you are sold on the idea, guys like this raccoon fart behind me is the definition of success. The man changing her oil of her car over at the oil change place is invisible to her. The guy that is serving her coffee is invisible to her. Or the guy with the basic office job that is standing behind her at the grocery store is invisible to her. She is just hoping this guy. And I've seen a story just like this before. Of a guy that was sending pictures of this Giga Chad doctor. I mean, this guy was buff and ripped. And he had on his doctor scrubs. Even though this was a clear mismatch. Those other guys that were more up her alley were and are invisible to her. Where is the guys that get taken by these scam women that send pictures of models? When it's probably really some guy on the other end of the keyboard. These guys have little to no options when they walk out of their front door. Why? Well, oddly enough, I recently heard Cardi B of all people saying something true. And she is not a role model, and she's done a ton of damage to promote this OF lifestyle. But she has turned around now and said, what is the problem with you being with an average person and you both are helping each other out with the bills? Because how messed up this world is. How are you supposed to make it? And again, those that run society know this fact. They want to keep you apart from the very people that can help you. Much like your narcissist parent or parents. Because if they pushed love and marriage and anti-divorce and they changed the divorce and marriage laws, and they pushed family and being honest, you would have people finding they are having an easier time getting through the tough times. Because they are working as a team. But remember, whoever they is or are, they don't want that. So guys like this behind me, they become popular. That is until people are coming after them for their money. Money they got scammed out of. And that's what appears to be happening to this guy right now. I will leave a link to the news story talking about him in the description box below. And sadly, I think we are going to see more guys like him popping up. Because making that much money normally though is doable. It's extremely hard and rare. And that's why a great many are taking to being a scam artist. Why? Because they want to be seen as attractive to others. It's that simple. And I will take that idea a step further. If women, not all women, but if the women that date illegal substance dealers, if they refuse to date them, you would see that market dry up so fast your head would spin. But what do I know? I'm just a cartoon. Well, I think this is a great place to stop. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe and share to drive more eyeballs to this content. And I thank you all for your kind words and your love and your support. With that said, I do hope your day is blessed. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.